Can you hear me? Please let me know in the chat box.
My name is Alice from Hi, my name is Alice from Infona. Welcome to Narwell, the first online platform that connects environment researchers and journalists.
My name is Gerald Tenywa. I'm a senior multimedia journalist working with a New Vision newspaper, and I've been working there reporting on the environment for the past 20 years.
My name is Mary Akurut. I have a doctorate in engineering science, focusing on water resources and climate change. My research interests are in water quality, climate change around Lake Victoria, and I'm currently working with the Uganda Electricity Generation Company as a manager dam safety and water resources.
The scientists believe that their role is to work in the lab, do their research somewhere in the research office, and they have no business with the media. And yet, the media can add value to their work by reporting it and making sure that it reaches so many people. And this has been quite a challenge. The Nile well is bringing these two parties together to be able to interact, to be able to chase the mistrust that has been existing between the two parties.
Nile well is a unique platform. It helps to interlink the journalists, the scientists, students and other researchers. It gives you a platform to also link to your own work, and also it gives you updates on the current and existing information that you have on the Nile basin.
You see, in many cases, the journalists, the first time, they may not get it right, but through continuous interaction with the scientists, they'll be able to learn a lot more, and they'll be able to learn correctly. I'm a living example of that. The way I was reporting 20 years ago is not the way I was reporting 10 years ago, and it is different from the way I was reporting 5 years ago.
It's important that we join this Nile platform because it helps us to link between scientists and journalists and provides information to the public in a way that is really understood and information that is scientifically proven. So this is a good link that you need to join. So I will.
So what are you waiting for? Create an account today by logging on to www.nawel.org.
Indeed, thank you so much, everyone who has just joined. We want to welcome each and every one of you to this particular Science Cafe, Science Wednesday Cafe. We usually have this every once in a month. And of course, we usually invite a scientist or a researcher to usually, highlight a few things that we journalists and of course most researchers might be important. My name is Andrew Aijuka, and of course I'm sitting in for Delicate Sive, who has happened not to be around today, but she's of course joining us also online. Delicate, greetings to everyone in Nairobi. We will go on, and of course today, friends, we are very excited to have one Arafa Kamoga is a bachelor's degree holder that's in the studies of environment science. That's from Makerere University. That's a very renowned university in Uganda and Africa at large. And he also has a postgraduate diploma in monitoring and evaluation and a master's in management science from Uganda Management Institute. He has 7 years of professional experience in program design and implementation, monitoring and evaluation, research, strategic planning, policy lobbying, and advocacy in the areas of climate change adaptation, mitigation, livelihood, renewable energy, environment, and natural resources management. Not forgetting, of course, disaster risk reduction and WASH, that's water and sanitation and health and hygiene, in both development and humanitarian work. It's such an honor, Mr. Arafa, to be with us. And before maybe you come in to take on, I would love to ask each and every one of us to share at least this link with a colleague so that they can be able to take part in this interesting conversation. Before Mr. Arafa comes in, I wanted to highlight a few things that he is going to be presenting. So Mr. Arafa Kamoga today will be talking to us on the role of agroecology in climate change adaptation. He presented this paper that was last year at the Water Week, that's in Uganda, and it really was met with a lot of enthusiasm and of course a lot of interest. So without wasting any more time, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to present to you Arafa Kamoga, our scientist for today. Thank you so much, Arafa. Take over, please. Arafa, we are struggling to hear you. Maybe if you could try to work on it. Yeah, a bit distant. We are struggling to hear you. Maybe if you could switch
But
them
I'm
out.
very close. But I'm very close to the laptop.
Now we can hear you. Now we can hear you.
So
thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew, and members on the platform. I was saying that your colleague Andrew asked me to share a video, and I told her I was a little bit engaged in the workshop in Fort Portal, but nonetheless, we will be able to, I hope now you can see me and my video is clear. I am just worried about my network. Because
Your network is actually fine, sir. Your network
I'm
is
connecting to the phone. Okay, so yeah, so that is me. And Andrew has already given you some background about me. I'll move strictly or directly to the presentation. Just to mention, like I shared, this is still work in progress. We had a commitment from the Ministry of Water and Environment here in Uganda from last year that we would work together to improve these write-ups and eventually get them reviewed and then published. But up to now, they are not yet. I think the ministry has not full time to work on that. So it is still work in progress. And what you will see, you will easily understand that we are still working on it, and maybe time we shall have it done. But it's a joint work that we do with the guidance from the Ministry of Water and Environment. So to start off, Andrew and members, I hope you're able to see my screen.
Indeed, indeed.
Okay.
Arafa, we can see it.
Okay, so Andrew already informed you that we are trying to explore issues about agroecology and how it contributes to climate change adaptation and mitigation. So that's what this paper is all about. And the presentation outline will be, I'll just give a background on what it means by agroecology and trying to unpack a few concepts. Then the justification or problem statement, objectives of the study. Then I'll again give you the conceptual framework, how the independent variable link to the dependent variables, and then the methodology, which will involve the study design, data collection and analysis methods, and then a summary of key findings and conclusion and recommendation. Too much of time, but towards the end, I will also need to share something in a Word document that will explain the synergies and interconnectedness within different components of this approach. Begin with trying to unpack agroecology. Agro comes from the word agriculture, sense of interconnectedness between different components of environment, could be plants, could be animals, could be people, and the environment where they live. So that interconnectedness or the relationship is what we refer as to ecology. So when you connect the two, you get agroecology. And this concept has been around since 1920. Of course, with the scientists trying to refer to it as the application of principles of agriculture, where diversity, recycling, and effective use of natural resources in farming systems is central. So agroecology is this kind of agriculture where the ecological management or environmental management becomes central in you or in our farming systems. So that's what, and it has evolved over the years to become a holistic approach to agriculture, integrating science with economic, social, and ecological systems. And it has become so high on the global agenda for sustainable development. When you talk about sustainable development, then you're talking about economic, you're talking about social, and then you're talking about the ecological component. So there are three pillars, and experts believe that those three pillars are like a three-legged stool where you sit. Those of you who sit on stools understand them. Or these we used to cook, and I think most of our households in Uganda and Kenya are still using those ones. So those three stones, if you remove one stone, you cannot cook food there. Even the stool with the three legs, if you remove one leg, the stool, you will not sit there. So those of you understand the concept of sustainable development, you cannot pursue socioeconomic development at the expense of the environment. And that's why it became very, very important that we integrate ecological management principles in our farming systems. Of course, after having realized that our farming systems contribute high or greatly contribute to ecological degradation. So the approach has potential in contributing to farming system resilience against biodiversity and reversing the land degradation trends. In terms of course, in my background, I've already talked about some of the key issues that would necessitate us to employ this kind of approach. And looking at the context of Uganda, just to take you back, is that about 80% of Ugandans depend on agriculture for their livelihood, and the sector generates about 90% of the country's export earnings, and that is according to Uganda Bureau of Statistics 2017. However, despite the fact that the country relies on this sector is highly vulnerable to climate change, and over 96% of this is lost through distortion, through rainfall seasons, and of course, even if on a positive end, our Human Development Index and income has improved considerably, Uganda remains one of the poorest countries in the world. And so climate change has become a reality and has adversely impacted agriculture and other natural resource-based sectors of the economy. And when you look at the emission, how the trend of the emission has been for the past years, you realize that Uganda's carbon emission has been increasing. And currently, according to the literature, we stand at 5.4 metric tons, and that is around 0.11 tons per capita. Now, this is per person generation, per person. And before then, it was as low as 0.4 metric tons. That is around 1981. But you can see how rapidly it has increased from 0.4 metric tons to 5.4 metric tons as of now, according to the literature available. And of course, of this, the highest contributor is the agriculture sector, and it contributes about 48% of the emission, and that's according to the Ministry of Agriculture, MAIF 2018. Now, I think you already see why we need to focus on improving our farming systems in terms of responding to ecological management. Of course, the foreseen challenge is meeting the growing population's food demands. The population is growing about 3.2 growth rate for Uganda, of course, which calls for increased food production amidst the changing climate. Despite the high population growth rate of 3.2 in Uganda, you have the presence of the second or third largest refugee population, because we have the open refugee policy in Uganda, so many refugees come into the country, and that constrains the country's ability to meet food demands, but also realizing sustainable development goals, which also inform the country's national development agenda. Now, whereas we have some policies that support natural resources management and climate change to enhance community resilience, we have the NDCs, the National Determined Contribution pledges to that emanate from the Paris Agreement. Under business as usual, the farming systems are not sufficiently developed to address or to cope up with the impact of climate change. Yes, there are these policy frameworks that provide guidance on how best we can adapt to climate change, including NDCs, but the farming systems are still lacking. So the farming communities are not properly developed to cope up with the impact of climate change. And so there is a need for a comprehensive interventions to integrate natural resources management and livelihood. So our livelihood interventions, our livelihood programs should put into consideration much the component of environmental management and climate change adaptation and mitigation. And that is according to NDP 3, which is now being implemented in Uganda. That is picked from the Vision 2040, which is divided into NDPs, and these NDPs are implemented in a five-year phased manner. So integral to the UN's vision for sustainable food and agriculture, the expression calls for agroecology as the key approach for the global response to climate instability, offering a unique opportunity to meeting significant increases in our current food demands and that of the future. So that is according to FAO. And as part of the durable system of sustainable natural resources management, agroecology interventions, agroecological interventions have capacity to ensure long-term supply of natural resources for sustainable livelihood demands, minimizing the detrimental environmental impacts. This paper therefore explores the contribution of agroecology as a key concept or a key variable that we think contributes much on climate change adaptation. So from my background, you already realized the objectives of the study, and the overall is to see how this approach contributes to agroecology, to climate change adaptation, and specifically to establish the contribution of this approach, agroecology, in terms of carbon sequestration, that is purely climate change mitigation, and then to establish the contribution of agroecology in increasing farmers' resilience. Now, that is adaptation, because adaptation and mitigation usually go hand in hand. So, whereas you're trying to survive, find a way best how you can survive within the changing climate, now that is adaptation. You also need to take up mitigation efforts, taking action in terms of reducing the damage that is caused on the environment, and that is mitigation. So the paper rotates around those two areas. And looking at the conceptual framework, the independent variable IV, agroecology, and DV, which is climate change adaptation. In agroecology, we are looking at aggressive culture. This one brings together crops and livestock, and this is where the emphasis is put. And then the other one on crops and livestock, the first one is crop and forestry, which is agro-silviculture, and then agro-silvopastoral system. This one now bring crop and livestock, and then silvopastoral systems now these bring livestock and forestry. So when you look at these three, later in my presentation, I'll try to highlight on how the interconnectedness happens and how that can then contribute to climate change adaptation and mitigation. On the side of the DV is carbon sequestration, which mainly refers to the process of balancing the carbon, the emission, picking the emission, especially by natural processes from the atmosphere. Of course, when it is reduced, when carbon is reduced from the atmosphere, then the greenhouse effect, which is mainly the heat being emitted by these greenhouse gases, is reduced. And that would automatically mean that there is a reduction on the danger that is caused by these gases. Farmers' resilience, I talked about that, but we shall go into details of that in the findings. Now, the methodology basically applied. The research design is longitudinal, it's over time. We've been trying to pick data over time and focusing on mainly qualitative data in data collection, analysis, and reporting. For the data collection, we mainly applied document review and key informant interviews. We think these could give us the relevant information. The study being so much of the qualitative study, so we think this would give us more of the information that we needed to understand on the role of the DV on the IV. For data analysis, both thematic and content analysis were used, and basing on how these findings relate to the study objectives. So were categorized basing on how the findings would relate to the study objectives. And I went ahead to talk about the content analysis and then the thematic analysis in details. I may not explain again. Key findings, of course, looking at the two and trying to summarize a summary of the findings, the literature available says that the contribution in terms of reducing the greenhouse gas effect, I already alluded about that, is between 40 to 70 to 47% reduction. And it favors the protection of the carbon. Sorry. It favors the protection of the soil carbon and carbon sequestration in vegetation, biomass, and therefore have a greater potential for climate change mitigation, reducing the carbon footprint. Now, the carbon footprint is connected to the per capita that I was talking about. It could be per capita, then per person, but then also carbon footprint might also be looked at institutions. How much of the carbon that is emitted per institution, especially those operating at a large scale. So agroforestry, agroecology, of course, focusing on the agroforestry as a key component, putting together all the components I've talked about, mainly crop, forestry, livestock. But then when you look at the forestry, the capacity of the forestry in that component, it offers protection to the soil carbon, carbon sequestration, that is in the biomass, which is now the crop and forestry, and has potential to pick carbon from the atmosphere through natural processes like photosynthesis, and then through those processes, we are able to reduce the carbon footprint. As the emission happens, we are able to keep on picking. And what picks are these vegetation, the crops, and the forestry, which mainly picks from the atmosphere. So to continue is that these trees have relatively higher capacities for capturing and storing atmospheric carbon dioxide. I talked about that in the vegetation, soils, and biomass products. I already explained that. And degraded lands recovered through, I know, Andrew and your colleague, last time you asked about the human influence in all this. So we have what we call we have what we call ANR. ANR is assisted natural regeneration, whereby the human beings coming out to assist, because first of all, they are the ones in charge of implementation of this approach, but also when they come in, they do assist. So they support the regeneration, the natural regeneration of the ecosystems through conservation, protection, and preservation services. So this allows water infiltration and increased soil carbon sequestration. So mainly, that is a key finding on how this agroecology, mainly agroforestry, can contribute in carbon sequestration. That is just an extract of what the bigger picture of the findings look like. In terms of contribution to increasing farmers' resilience, I have talked about different components of this approach that are brought together on the same piece of land. And one, it offers farm diversification, which supports farmers' economic diversification as well, and thus reducing the effects of loss due to climate change. Contributes to farmers' income generation and stability by reducing losses to climate shocks and reducing input costs. Now, when you look at all these components, the forestry, the crops, the livestock, all these, when they are brought together on the same piece of land, one is that if crops are attacked by the climate change impact, like for example drought, then the farmer's capacity or resilience is not shaken. This person can still rely on other agro-based or agri. Diversification is a very key component of climate change adaptation, being able to rely on so many income generating activities or agribusinesses. So the other one is about, I told you I'm connecting to my phone and someone was trying to call me and I'm trying to take them off that I complete this presentation. Secondly, how does it, secondly, how this approach contributes to resilience of farmers is about bringing, it's kind of learning, because when you are implementing all these components, the interconnectedness between these components, the livestock, the crop, the forestry, now it's a learning. You keep on learning. There's a lot of traditional knowledge that is learned, that is provided, that you learn as you implement this approach, then which also gives the chance to the bigger community also to come and learn on traditional knowledge. I know this was also a concern of how best, because when we talk about agroecology, it looks as if it is more scientific knowledge, but traditional knowledge or indigenous knowledge is actually very key as well. In practices and sustainable use of technologies, that is at the core of the agriculture of the agroecological farming system. Cultivation practices maintain high crop production and livestock diversity integrated in a farming ecosystem that facilitates recycling of biomass. Recycling, there is what we call a Songhai model. Those of you have heard about it. Those in Uganda, if you go to Mpigi, you can see how those different components on the farming, in the farming system can contribute to one another. And I'll just display, I'll flash how that happens in around this or within these different components. I'll show something how that model happens. And the other one is about nutrients, water, energy. And as such, these practices create resilience by spreading risks and improve the water and nutrient buffer capacity in the system. This is what I was talking about. Now, those are three different components that you might have on your or new piece of land. And in our what document I promised to display, I'll share. We shall see how they contribute. Conclusion. Sorry, these conclusions. I was not able to put them like tailored, so much tailored in the presentation. But when finally the report is out, they will be very, very well tailored. So we think that strategic establishment of agroecological systems can provide an effective means of meeting Uganda's policy objectives. Those policy objectives I talked about, the NDCs, all the climate change commitments, either in international or national context, all these can be achieved by this approach, and we think this approach can provide an effective means of meeting Uganda's climate change priorities on greenhouse gas emissions, while providing a wide range of other livelihood-related benefits. And of course, tackling climate change requires a broader cooperation and diverse approach. Implementing agroecology for development requires transcending the many labels for sustainable agriculture and climate change. The point is to spend more time on understanding how agroecology can be used to improve climate change mitigation and adaptation. And already I'm already highlighting on a few recommendations that we need to do. Government of Uganda, I'm trying to, those ones of Kenya, sorry about that. I'm trying to be now tailored to government of Uganda. We think that they should increase investment in research on agroecology and its contribution to extreme weather conditions. We think that there is the knowledge available is not adequate enough to be used widely for the farming communities to understand how best this approach can contribute. So we think that we need more investment in research in this area. And then we also think that there is need for government and these aligned ministries, departments and agencies to take lead in creation and dissemination of the available knowledge through advisory services and farmer-to-farmer exchange. Now this is more or less of peer-to-peer learning for those of you in social world. Government of Uganda should change the institutional and policy landscape for rural development, for upscaling systematic approaches to climate change adaptation. So these institutional and policy landscape need to be changed if these kind of adaptation measures can be adopted. And then also set up more demonstration sites. This is, yes, important for learning, because we think we learn by seeing or even by touching. So we think these demonstration sites are needed, especially in farming systems, in farming communities, to facilitate experience sharing and learning. So you allow me flash something on a Word document, what I wanted to share with you. Talked about the components, the forestry, the crop, and then the livestock. So all these have contribute something. But this is what I was trying to show you, the connectedness of these different components of agroecology or agroforestry as a key component of agroecology. You see, we have the livestock, we have the crop, we have the forestry. Of course, one would wonder, what is the importance of the livestock component in this whole thing? But you also know the importance of livestock in improving the soil fertility, because soil then becomes a key component of this agroecology, of this approach, because you know where agriculture is mainly happens. Then the agroforestry or forestry, I already talked about the importance of that in terms of sequestration, and then the crop, which is the vegetation, which is also participating much in carbon sequestration, but also improving the quality of the soils. So all these three, the agri-silviculture systems, the silvipastoral systems, and the agri-silvipastoral systems, all these have to be considered if we want to have an effective agro-ecosystem kind of model. Farming communities need to adapt to this. And remember, I talked about the resilience, which is now, when you look at these components, one of the enterprise, which is mainly likely to be crops affected by the shocks of climate events, then the farming communities are able to survive and thrive amidst the changing climate. So this was, I was trying to show you the classification of agroforestry, agroforestry or systems based on composition. But then this diagram, I was trying to demonstrate how the connectedness again happens and how eventually this feeds into the household in terms of, because yes, we mainly practice agriculture for livelihood purposes, which encompasses food security and then money, income itself. So I was trying to demonstrate how these forests feed into the livestock in terms of providing fodder and grazing, then how they provide into in terms of soil fertility, and then through crop residues and all these processes. And I was trying to show how eventually now the crop will provide the food and nutrition. But then you can see now from the crop, you can go directly to the market. And then you can see that directly from livestock, you can still go directly to the market. This is the kind of model that we are still working on and think maybe it would make sense and can be adopted by farming communities to improve on their resilience to climate change. So when you look at these livestock, forestry, and these three components, how they need to coexist with the households, and eventually you can see all now the arrows come to provide to provide income, provide food. Now from the market, you see we have income which is directly going to the household, and then I already talked about the crop, how it directly feeds into the household, but even directly from the livestock, it can still go directly to the household. So that is a model we are trying to develop. We are still work in progress to see that it can be finished and then adopted, or tested first and then adopted later, to see how best it can work in the farming communities in Uganda. So members, in brief, that's what I am able to present to you. Like I shared with you, it is still work in progress. Maybe when it is finally done, we can have time and share again with you. Otherwise, I want to thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arafa Kamoga. And this has been such a brilliant one and insightful presentation, I must say. And we are really glad that you've taken off time to present such an insightful paper. But as we get into the question time, I would appreciate if most of us that have questions about the presentation could simply type these questions in the message or in the chat, in this chat space. From there, we will get these questions, and of course, we will relay them to Arafa, and then we will get, his feedback or his answers on these questions. But maybe, Alpha, to start with, before even I ask you what inspired you to, or what was very important for you to conduct this research, maybe if you can further try to, give us a specific example of, of the practice of agroecology that you have, at a personal level researched about and you think is working well to protect against the impacts of climate change, especially here in Uganda, because I believe you're looking at Uganda as your sample space.
Yes, Andrew, I already shared about that. Said agroforestry. Agroforestry, this brings together the crops and the trees, tree planting. It's just more of a mixed kind of farming. You bring together crops and forests, and I think if you move around the peripheries of the country, where farming communities mainly happen, you can see that it is being used.
Okay, that is very nice. And of course, maybe the other question that I would love to get to you before I welcome questions from other journalists. Yes.
I can take the questions at once, then respond to them at once. Sure. Is that okay with you?
That's very fine. That's very fine. We'll keep adding on as they come in. So maybe the other question that I would love you to highlight on is what was that important thing that pushed you to conduct this research? And maybe the second thing, or the second question is, what would you recommend as the area of coverage by the media? Where can the media put emphasis when reporting on this particular issue? And then Sharon Muzaki is asking for an email, for your email. I think we will post it in the chat. But for now, just answer these two questions as we wait for others to come in, and then we push them to you. Why is it important for you to conduct this research, and where or which areas can journalists focus on while reporting about this theme or topic called agroecology? Thank you.
Which area, maybe I can begin with the last one. Which area, I want to assume that I've understood that question, Andrew.
Yes, which area? Yeah, I think you have understood. Yeah, can we focus on? For example, you could say maybe we could focus on the aspect of the agroecology being maybe the adaptation kind of thing when it comes to climate change or mitigation.
Yes, I think media needs to focus on adaptation, how agroecology and mainly agroforestry, because I have mentioned a number, but mainly agroforestry, how agroforestry contributes to climate change adaptation. Because for now, adaptation is more feasible, is more realistic in the current period, as opposed to mitigation, because the danger that has been done for the previous years, now scientists would tell you that even after 50 years from now, if it is still business as usual, we may not do away with the impact of climate change. What we can only do is to try to live with it by adaptation. So I think media would focus on adaptation, but also media should be looking at what are the policy commitments? What are the policy commitments in the national determined contributions? What did the country commit vis-a-vis what the country is doing? Remember, most of these commitments are implemented by the farming communities, people on ground, not people in Kampala in workshops. So what is happening what the country committed vis-a-vis what is happening or what is being done on ground. What pushed me to conduct this study? I come from a farming community, and over time I have realized that climate change is becoming a reality. We used to have 2 main growing seasons in southwestern Uganda, but now we have only 1 main growing season in a year, which is also becoming very unreliable in terms of rainfall, especially at the onset. And I know that there are many districts in the cattle corridor in Uganda that are struggling to have the rains. So that itself pushed me to try to understand what can be done in terms of adjusting to this situation, but also my professional background. Like you highlighted in your brief, I am an environmentalist and a researcher trying to bring on board what are those key issues that are affecting our ability as a country to pursue sustainable development goals that also inform our national development goal, and how best can a country address them as we pursue these goals. Otherwise, if these issues are not given equal attention in terms of addressing them, then we shall go up to 2030 SDGs, 2040 vision of the country without realizing significant benefits from all these plans, good plans that we have had. And that's why you see that you have people who are starving. I know even in Kenya, there are issues of starvation. I've had their president talk about them. And they're mainly attributed to issues of climate change, especially drought. So I want to unpack, to bring out issues, recommendations of how best institutions and government can support farming communities to adapt to climate change impact.
Thank you so much, Arafa, for that. We have a question coming in from Juliet, and Juliet is asking, is agroecology, another name for agroforestry? Is it another term for agroforestry? Actually, to state it right, she's asking, is agroecology synonymous with agroforestry? What would you answer? And maybe you can also tackle Musa Juma's question. And he's asking, do you think traditional knowledge is useful against the impacts of climate change? Yeah, you could answer those 2 questions if you got them right. And if you didn't, I could repeat.
No, I got them right. Thank you, Juma, and who?
And Juliet.
Juliet, thank you so
Yes.
much for those questions. No, I'll begin with Juliet. Agroecology is not another name. Agroforestry is not another name for agroecology, but it is a component. Just like you saw in my conceptual framework, I talked about the different indicators or elements of the independent variable, which is agroecology. So agroforestry is just a component that brings together the crops and forestry. Then there are those that bring together crops and livestock. There are those that bring together livestock and forestry. So it's just a component like the other 2. But it comes out strongly because of its significance in terms of contributing to one, to adaptation, and to mitigation, which is the carbon sequestration, because it has the other component, the other big component, because the crops have the vegetation, more or less vegetation, and then the forestry have the vegetation. So the other sequestration is very, very visible in this component. And that's why we talk about it strongly. But if you talk about it, then you talk about one of the components of agroecology. Two, Juma asked about my comment on the traditional knowledge. Yes, traditional knowledge or indigenous knowledge is very, very important. You will see, I work with farming communities, and when you live with them for a long time, you would realize that these people actually know better than you know. Because for you, you studied all these things, you have the science, but now these people have their local science. They will tell you, if this challenge happens, this is what we do. If there is a flooding, this is what we do. If there is a landslide, this is what you do. Their biggest challenge now is not the knowledge. Their biggest challenge is the facilitation to help them use their knowledge, which I think is also a missing link. So traditional knowledge is very, very important. This is not to say that the scientific knowledge is important. In fact, what is ideal is a combination of the traditional knowledge and the scientific knowledge. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Arafa. And we are running out of time. We are now going into another session. And of course, this session will have one of us from Israel asking questions to the audience and seeing whether they have been attentive. Arafa, this is not for you, but you can also be part of the judges and, let us know whether the answers the audience is giving, are right. So at this point, I will invite my colleague, Christopher Cobell, to go ahead and, of course, come in with the trivial questions. And these are basically going to the audience. And this is to remind each and every person that is going to take part,
Andrew, I'm not able to hear you. Do other colleagues hear?
Andrew seems to have gone off.
Is that we have winners of the previous Science Wednesday for you. So the previous winners won informal items they took home. And okay, sorry for that. I dropped off. But what I was saying is that the previous winners won informal merchandise, and of course they took home that t-shirt, and of course we gave them also a thermal flask and lots of stuff that we as Informal give to the people that we dearly think about. And of course, what is in line for the ones that are coming in, the winners, of course, will be based on an accumulative, point kind of status, whereby we try to give points to individuals. And then over the next 6 months, we are able to identify who has been active and, of course, who is able to get these gifts. I see Duku is saying, I've never received my gift as a previous winner. Duku, your gift must be on the way. I believe you can, from here, you can send me a personal message, then I can be able to follow up on where exactly your gift hamper should be. But at this point, allow me to invite Chris. And of course, Chris will help us take us through this trivial question session. And from there, we could tell who has won for this session. And then after that, we will get back to whoever won and maybe they haven't yet received their details. You could please share your details in the chat box or your email, and then we get back to you, or you could send a message direct to me or to one of the Informal staff, and then we will get back to you. But for now, Chris, please take over. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew, for that short introduction. Thank you, Mr. Henry, for that nice lecture. It was very, very interesting.
Arafa.
Andrew, you will help.
It's Arafa, not Henry.
Oh, Miss Arafa, apologies. Miss Arafa, apologies. Yes. So Andrew, you will assist me with the tallying of the marks, and we know who is answering first. Also, please, guys, whoever wins, we shall request that you share your details so that, like Andrew said, we can easily know how to give you the prizes, whatever that comes out of the wins that you win from the trivia questions. All right. So, like as usual, as we have fun, we have 5 trivia questions. We start with 2 from the presentation or the lecture that we've just been in, and then we go to other general trivia questions. So we shall start with number one. The first trivia question is: name 3 components of agroforestry based on composition for an effective agroecosystem. Name 3 components of agroforestry based on composition for an effective agroecosystem. Let me read it one more time. Name 3 components of agroforestry based on composition for an effective agroecosystem.
We have Duku saying that diversity, recycling, and effective use of natural resources. Do we have him give us the correct answer, or it's still lacking? Arafa, please, you will help us also in identifying the correct answer. Yeah, but
yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Mr. Arafa,
That
Mr. Arafa is
interesting.
laughing, don't
this answer is interesting. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Let me repeat the question. Name the 3 components of agroforestry based on composition for an effective agroecosystem.
There is a way when you start the question, you kind of, disappear.
I break? Oh, really?
Yeah. Maybe you can repeat it again. Yeah.
All right. Name the 3 components of agroforestry based on composition for an effective agroecosystem. Just 3.
Yeah. As we wait, that is really quite something. We have Duku who has given us an answer, and he says diversity.
Mr. Arafa, can you confirm that? Because I have a few answers that are not that.
Okay, it's all right.
But when you're marking, you don't have to always have the exact, as long as
I can
close.
see only one.
Yeah.
You can see one.
The others are yeah, in other words. Oh, so he's saying Duku comes in again and says.
So Duku has he's trying to come close to the answer.
Yeah, I see his second response. I think is the general, which is correct. Unless in marking nowadays, I don't know. You normally mark based on
we have
the closeness to the answer.
Uzia has it right.
Oh, okay. So do we take Uzia as the winner for this question?
Now, my Duku tried a lot, I think. I don't know how your word.
Okay.
But I'm also thinking that Uzia must have had our comment on Duku's answer to give this. Is there a possibility of sharing, or
we could share, Andrew. We do have half a mark.
I think they can share.
All right.
But Uzia got it right.
Okay, thanks so much.
So for attempts, we give Doku something. All right.
Yeah,
number 2.
Yes.
Number 2. List 3 classifications of agroforestry systems based on composition. List 3 classifications of agroforestry systems based on composition.
Yeah, you're waiting.
List 3 classifications of agroforestry systems based on composition.
Remember, guys, we are time barred also. So let us give these answers quite quickly. Yeah. I can see some of you are trying to Google.
Just 3, guys. Just 3. Just 3. Just 3. They are, I think they're like 4 more, but 3. We want only 3.
Yeah. Duku, we are waiting. Uzia, we are waiting. Alfred, I'm waiting. And
3 classifications of agroforestry system based on composition.
Yeah, David Okema, I'm waiting also. So we
there
have
we are. There we are.
Uzia
There
saying,
Uzia has come through.
Uzia, have you been, have you had this paper out already? So we have Uzia.
The man.
Uzia, Uzia though?
Yeah.
He has got 2.
Andrew.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr.
No,
Arafa.
Uzia is not close. You were asking about the systems.
Yes.
So Uzia is not close to the answer.
Okay. Hey, I see he has okay 1.
Yeah, but your question should be on the system.
Yeah.
And remember, a system is composed of the organs, so they must be more than 1.
So do we say someone is setting their own questions? Okay. So we are still on question 2. So we have Sharon Muzaki, who says extension forestry, agroforestry practice, functional basis. Then of course, Kay Duku comes in again and says agroforestry, crop rotation, and fishing.
Mr. Arafa, guide us, please.
I think A could be having like
because we want 3. We want 3.
Yeah, A could be having like for example 2 of them. Again, the way he presents them, they don't reflect to be system. At least he has 1. At least he has like 2.
Okay.
Because I know that Andrew, I know that they did not look well at the word document.
Yes.
And that's where these questions are coming from.
Okay. All right. I guess this conversation will help us understand more about these things. So maybe, Chris, if you could go ahead and give us the answer.
All right.
Yeah,
all right. Now
we can give this to Kay. Give this to Kay since he has 2 of them. But again, you can go ahead and give us the correct answer. Thank you so much. As we go to question number 3, because we are running out.
All right. Now let's do general. We're doing some general questions, 3 general questions, and then we announce. So 1 of the general. Let me ask: how many countries rely on the Nile River and its tributaries for fresh water and fish? A, 1 country. B, 7 countries. C, 11 countries. Or D, 14 countries. How many countries rely on the Nile River and its tributaries for water and fish? 1A is 1 country, B, 7 countries, C, 11 countries, or D, 14 countries.
Uzia will ask you to mute, but of course you come in as first, and of course you say that there are 11 countries.
Oh, well, Sharon is there. Sharon has answered it. Oh, there was also Uzia was first. Oh, wow. Guys are fast here. Oh, wow.
Okay. Oh, so, right. 11 countries.
Both now Sharon and Uzia have both got that one. So Andrew, you will see what to say there. Both at the same time came through.
Okay.
Another one. Let's go.
Right. Yeah.
How much does Ethiopia's Blue Nile River increase in volume during the rainy season? How much does Ethiopia's Blue Nile River increase in volume during the rainy season? Is it A, 2 times? Is it B, 35 times? Is it C, 10 times? Or is it D, 50 times? How much does Ethiopia's Blue Nile River increase in volume during the rainy season? Is it A, 2 times? Is it B, 35 times? Is it C, 10 times? Or is it D, 50 times? D. Wow, wow, wow. Duku is here. Duku is on fire. Well done, Duku. All right, Duku. Well done.
All right, one to go.
One to go. The Nile crocodile is the only freshwater species that sees humans as prey. How long do these crocodiles grow? Is it A, 10 feet, B, 16 feet, C, 20 feet, or D, 30 feet? The Nile River crocodile is the only freshwater species that sees the humans as prey. How long do these crocodiles grow? Is it A, 10 feet? Is it B, 16 feet? Or C, 20 feet? Or D, 30 feet? Duku.
Sharon says 20. Is it right?
20 feet, even Duku got it. So both these guys, man. And hey, Jesus, all of them. Dre, you have Sharon, you have Uzia.
Yeah. I have Sharon who came in
Duku.
first. I will give this to Sharon because Sharon came in first. I'll give it to Sharon. I won't let her share it with anyone. I appreciate all the others' efforts, but I think I will take Sharon on this.
It was so much fun, guys. Thank you so much. Over to Andrew, guys. Thank you for having us. Thank you for being here. All right, then.
Thank you so much, Chris, for such a beautiful thing. And of course, Chris is a very generous man, because that's why he comes in with the trivial questions that at the end get you, having some of these gifts. I will ask you, Uzia, to mute, if you don't mind. All right.
May we have Mr. Kamoga's email?
Okay, we will share it immediately,
because
and my colleague will do
I'm
that.
doing a story on agroecology, so he may be one of my sources. Actually, thanks for having this up. So
you can type it in the chat section, and everyone gets it. Oh, it's there. All right.
Yeah,
Mr.
it's over there.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much. And of course, this is just a reminder that our winners of the Science Wednesday stand a chance to win a story grant. That's 1. 2, a training and mentorship program. Then 3, you also stand a chance of winning InfoNow merchandise. And just like how I said, this is based on accumulative points over the next 6 months. And of course, this is an equivalent of 6 Science Wednesdays. So try to look out always so that you could be part of these Science Wednesdays. And that way you could be able to win one of or 2 or even all of these things that we have listed. Otherwise, the winner for today, I must say that Uzia and K. Duku. Today, I think K. Duku has been the man of the match, taking or sharing question 1 with Uzia, and then answering question 2 as the best answer. Then, of course, coming in with question 4 as the best answer, giving him total points of 2.5.
Andrew.
Yes.
Can we add Sharon? Can we add Sharon in the mix?
Sharon has 1 point. Like she got
1 point.
Yeah, 1 point. She got question 5. So question 1 was shared between Uzia and K. Question 2 was won by Duku K. And then question 3 was won by Uzia and also shared by Sharon. So question 4 was won by K Duku, and question 5 was won by Sharon. So Sharon has 1.5, K has 2, 3 actually. Yeah, 2.5, and then Uzia also has 1.5. For now, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Hope we can have you next time. We are sorry we ate into most of your time, but I hope it has been such a fruitful discussion. For me and the team at InfoNile, and from Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, and the beautiful city Kampala, we say thank you so much and have a lovely evening. Bye for now.